Let's do this. The Cult of Hockey podcast by the faithful and for the faithful. I'm David Staples of the Edmonton Journal, and I'm here today with Kurt Leavins. Welcome, Kurt.
Hello, Dave. How are you?
Pretty good. Pretty good, Kurt. Uh, I'm not that into the Olympics, but I have watched the two women's hockey games. And today I did game grades on it and grade A shots on it, as I did with the first game. The first game was a total blowout for Team Canada. This was a much closer game.
And of course, the big news out of today is Marie-Philip Poulin, right?
And we're going to get to all that. But first, we're going to talk the Oilers. We're going to talk coaching for the Oilers. We're going to talk trades. Then we're going to talk about the women's Olympic hockey team. And we saw preliminary lines for the men's hockey team, and we'll talk about that as well. Kurt, the coaching issue heated up for the Edmonton Oilers with 3 straight losses heading into the Olympic break. And the Oilers now have 28 wins and 30 losses, which isn't great, which is not good. It's okay, maybe. It's only okay because they're in a division, the Pacific Division, where all the teams are doing poorly. If they were in the other conference, they'd be well out of the playoffs race or they'd be struggling to keep touch with the playoff race right now. So the Oilers are lucky, and that's the case for them this year. It then really heated up when Leon Draisaitl talked about the need for everybody to improve, and said he starts with the coaches, is how he put it, and extends to everybody else. But he did say it starts with the coaches. And his comment was very well received by most fans and commentators. But it is unusual for a player to ever publicly criticize coaches, even obliquely, even mildly, as Leon Draisaitl did. So that's why it has gotten quite a bit of attention. It's also gotten attention because a lot of people don't like the coaching of the Edmonton Oilers. A lot of fans. I mean, if everyone was pro-coach, but he really fanned the flames of some people. Like, some people are really out for the Oilers coaches. And earlier this year, when the defense was doing so poorly, I brought up Paul Coffey as maybe coming back. Jim Matheson brought it up a couple weeks ago, and you had raised it on the podcast about a week and a half ago now, I think.
And in my 9 Things column.
And in your 9 Things column. And Bob Stauffer then on this past week gave what I saw as a fairly strong hint that the Oilers were seriously considering something with essentially adding another coach to help with the defense. And I think we all know who that coach might be. Kurt, what do you make of it all?
Couple big thoughts. First of all, don't put me, and I'm not saying you are, don't put me in the camp that thinks that Chris Knobloch should be fired.
Oh, I'm not.
I know, but it's lots of people think that should be the case, and I just don't think that. I think Chris Knobloch is a good coach, and not everything has gone his way this year, and he's made some mistakes. But this is still a really smart guy who has touched all the bases on his way up the ranks into the NHL coaching ranks, and has been behind the bench for back-to-back Stanley Cup final berths. So let's be careful not to throw the baby with the bathwater. So that's one. 2, as I wrote my column and then mentioned in our podcast together, I do think that there was too big of a change behind the bench in the offseason. And half of it, you really couldn't do anything about. Good for Glenn Gulutzan. He got a head coaching job in the NHL in Dallas. No one's going to hold that against Gulutzan. No one's going to hold it against the organization for letting him go. At least they shouldn't. That's just the normal way of doing business. But when you subtract the strong, opinionated veteran voices of Glenn Gulutzan and Paul Coffey from behind that bench, I think it left a vacuum. And I think that has been part of the problem this year for the Edmonton Oilers. Then when you kind of take a look at a couple of the players that aren't there anymore, the Evander Kanes, the Corey Perrys, the guys who aren't afraid to call a spade, maybe those voices are even more pronounced in their absence. Then there's the case of a few Edmonton Oilers players who have been either really inconsistent or not good at all, which has exacerbated that. I don't put the goaltending in that same pile. As I wrote this past weekend, I know people right now aren't thrilled with Tristan Jarry and co, but until they play behind a defense that is in better repair and in a better frame of mind, I'm not sure you can adjudicate the goaltending with any kind of accuracy whatsoever. So those are kind of 3 or 4 of my main thoughts.
When you brought it up again a couple of weeks ago about Coffey coming back, I had been pushing for it hard, and when it didn't happen, I just thought it's not going to happen, and I kind of had put it out of my head. And to give the credit to the current coach Stewart, although the grade A shots have been high throughout the year, like 2 grade A shots per game more than in the past, which it's 15% more, which is a significant number. The play of some of the defensemen has been pretty strong this year. Bouchard and Ekholm have been a really strong pairing.
Yep.
And Darnell Nurse has been inconsistent, but generally I'd say he's been good. Like but it's kind of weird to call him good because he's sometimes really bad. He's had really bad stretches and he's had very good stretches.
When I mentioned overall, inconsistent, that was the pile I was going to put Darnell Nurse in. So you and I see that the same way.
And Ty Everson's been good. Like as a bottom pairing defenseman, he's
better
good.
Than last year. Good, right? Yes.
The problem with the reason you would bring Coffey back is he improved everybody. Everybody got better under him. And 3 defensemen aren't getting any better. Stastny, Wallman, and Regula have all been really weak on defense, like alarmingly weak, like killing your team weak. And I know that that's a really strong thing to say, but that's what my grade A shots research is telling me. These guys are leaking grade A shots against at an unacceptable rate, like more than 2 per game. If you're above 2 per game, if that's your average, like that's not NHL level. And because I had put Coffey out of my head, my solution for it has been, let's trade for a defenseman. I've been pushing that idea for the last little while but maybe the simplest thing to do and the cheapest thing to do is bring back Paul Coffey to coach the defenseman.
The guy who already works for you?
And have him, doesn't cost anything more. And he seems to do pretty well with defensemen. And it happens pretty fast, which is how good coaching works. Like, quite honestly, it can work fast. You get the right messages to the players. You approach them in the right way. You give them 2 or 3 of the right messages. You stress that. And bingo, bango, they start playing better. Things start to click for them. And that could happen. So I'd like to actually see... It's a little late. Like, we're not going to get enough of a sample size before the trade deadline if Coffey does come back, to see if you can pull this out without the need to trade for another defenseman. But I think it's the right decision. The sooner the better, and get him back working with these players because, again, he had a pretty dramatic impact. Nothing against Stewart, but the results aren't there with a number of his players, and it's just not acceptable. For a team that should be competing for the Stanley Cup, you need to I think you need to bring in Coffey, which is what I thought have thought for a long time.
An old mentor of mine had this saying once, which is, it's a management problem. And he would use it with us whenever, you'd have let's call them a challenging employee in your operation, but very high performing.
Okay.
Right? And you'd sit in the meeting and you'd complain about this person, and the owner would look at you and go, so what you're telling me is that it's a management problem.
I love that.
And he was such a smart guy, right? Because in other words, so here you have this guy who can do something for you that nobody else can, and the only thing that's holding you back is you. And I think that would be good advice to give to Chris Knobloch, who I think at times felt overwhelmed by the power of Paul Coffey's personality. Suck it up.
Yeah.
I think he just makes your team better. And if you're confident in your own skin as the head coach of this team and with a brand new contract, he should be, then do you want to win or not?
So, Kurt, we both agree that it should happen. Okay. Will it happen? Yeah. What do you think? What did you hear Bob's? You might have. I wrote a post on it. You might have read them. Did you hear Bob? His hints in this regard.
Yeah, our friend Bob is, he's in a difficult spot, just so everybody understands. When you work for the team, and I've been in that position, you are somewhat limited as to what you can say and what you can't, lest
Oh
anybody
yeah.
criticize Bob for that. And I know you and I don't, but it's a tough, unique position. If Bob's hinting at it, uh, where there's smoke, there's probably fire.
Yeah. It struck me there was fire. It strikes me that it makes sense. So it's kind of like. Of course, it made sense in November, but maybe it was a little early then for everybody. Maybe they just had to see if it played out, see if it could improve or not. And
Yeah.
it has improved again with some of the players. Like they're doing just fine, but maybe that's more on the play. Like we're talking very veteran players here in Ekholm, Nurse, and Bouchard who are doing well.
Yeah, and I would say
So
nothing's too late. It's should do you wish this team was in a better spot than they are? Of course, but they're far from in trouble, right? So if you can get a couple big things right now, you can take off, which is what we've all been waiting for this team to do all year, and they just haven't.
and I think they're close with the forwards too taking off. Like they've got four good lines if they just stick with them.
Stop
And
sitting out Curtis Lazar.
not sitting out Curtis Lazar. And even at this point, Trent Frederick, honestly, like he on the fourth line, he's been playing better, and
Yeah,
like just keep playing the guy, and maybe because he does look a little bit faster, and here I am
does.
engaging in the kind of talk that I've poo-pooed in the
Yeah,
past, like he's looking better, he's looking faster, but I think he is. I think it's real,
but at this point,
and
he needs more confidence, right? And putting him in the press
yeah.
box ain't going to help with that.
So on the forward front, Kurt, you know, one of the things our friend Bob has said often when talking about a trade is maybe the Oilers will trade a player who's not performing so well on their team for a player who's not performing so well on another team. And I'm starting to put this together with the Mangiapane thing in a more concrete way, at least in my own head, maybe everybody else. But we've always heard from Elliot Friedman, for instance, that he thinks a trade can happen, and he's never really backed off that, even though a trade hasn't happened. So it's clear Plan A didn't work, which was to trade Mangiapane and get rid of his contract and get his cap space and not have to swallow much of a poison pill. I think that might have been Plan A. Plan B, though, I think, is this combination of yes, he can be traded, but it's going to be for someone else who's not doing very well. And a really interesting name. There's a couple of interesting names that have come up in that light. And the first is Nick Roy of Toronto, who's a center who has, I think, 5 goals and is earning $3 million this year and next year. And he's 5 goals again for a $3 million center. He's underperformed expectations. And Toronto now, their record isn't that much worse than the Oilers, if it's worse at all, but they're kind of they're 5 or 6, 7 points out of the playoff spot. It's going to be really tough for them. So
Yep.
he's one guy. And then the other one is Warren Foegele. So after they traded for Artemi Panarin, Foegele had already been sitting on LA, and now they've got Artemi Panarin. He's deep. He's got 6 goals this year, Warren Foegele. Both he and Mangiapane are 29. Both have 6 goals. Both are earning. Fogle's earning 3.5 million this year and next. Mangiapane 3.6 million this year and next. That really hit the spot with a lot of people. The idea, but what I wonder, does that hit the spot with Ken Holland? Do they want a smaller forward, and could they maybe get something better than Andrew Mangiapane for Warren Foegele? Because maybe people think, well, he's kind of a big guy and he's fast and he can kill penalties, and even if he doesn't score, he could help us in the playoffs. Whereas Mangiapane's a smaller player, he's not killing penalties. So, how do you see it, Kurt?
Well, my first question is why would Ken Holland do this?
Yeah.
I've got time for Warren Foegele. He's a better player than what he's been in Los Angeles this year. But let's not be revisionist either. While Warren Foegele is big and fast, he is not a heavy player. Never has been a heavy player. He does go to the net, but he's not a big bruiser. You
He
always
doesn't hit.
wish
You're right.
you always wish he'd be more physical, and he just isn't.
Yeah.
Sometimes that dog don't hunt, right? Um, would he be better at this point than Andrew Mangiapane? Well, yeah. But I go back to why Ken Holland would do someone in his division a favor, and I just don't know why he would.
Now that you go and put it that way, Kurt, jeez.
Sorry to poop on your party, but if I'm
Hey,
Ken Holland,
why would
I,
he help the Oilers? Like,
I
why?
had
Like,
he would have less than zero interest in helping Edmonton
he
at
would
this
have,
point,
yeah.
wouldn't he?
He's the one that they kind of let go of, and he's been kicked under
Time
the
to
rug.
retire, Ken, which I
Yeah,
still think was the best
and
advice, by the way. But
listen, and I also think they could. I think they could probably move Foegele without having to take a contract like that back. Like I don't see the two players equivalent. What about Nick Waugh? Or you think that's a possibility?
I think, look, given that we've moved on from the getting rid of Mangiapane's salary, then it's kind of you hope that a change of scenery ends up giving you the better player. I can't say I've ever been a huge Nick Waugh fan. It's like, okay, you know. I'll go back to a previous conversation you and I have had, David, because while everybody seems to have been talking about how the Oilers need another forward, I've never been in that camp. I think the Oilers need a different defenseman first, and if you can get a useful forward, great. But this team already scores enough goals. You need to be better at preventing shots against grade A shots and goals against.
So this is the problem, right? Because there's only really one player they can move out a contract, and that's Mangiapane to get that cap space.
Easily, at least, yes.
Henrique would have to agree to waive no movement clause, and Henrique may be like their penalty kill's gone down the toilet since Henrique's been out. So,
and Henrique will be rested and should be in good condition coming back because it was a hand injury, not a lower body injury.
So they might not even want to move Henrique. Like he is another veteran player, right? Like if they're already a little short on the veteran mojo in the dressing room. But I just think if they trade Mangiapane for Roy, that's like that's all they can do. Or for Nick and Roy, that's it, because then they don't have the cap space, right? So they can only move now Mangiapane by himself if they include something else, which might be a pretty good prospect player or a reasonably high draft, like a second round pick, to move out Mangiapane. And are the Oilers going to do that to get the cap space? And then you could trade for a defenseman, which we have both agreed is the major need at this point. Do you think they might do that, Kurt?
Well, I think what I was going to say was, don't rule out the possibility of a 3-team trade, because whoever you trade Mangiapane for might not be the perfect fit for you, but maybe they're the perfect fit for somebody else, and they've got a spare part that you could use. In other words, so let's say Nick Waugh is what you can get for Andrew Mangiapane, but another team in the East could use him too. So maybe he never sleeps a night in Edmonton. Maybe you acquire him and you trade him to somebody out east for a defenseman, and that's the cap space that you work with. Like there's a lot of machinations that you could go through in order to make this in quotes better. I won't pretend to know what they're going to do, but it's I don't think they should just change the defenseman coach. I do think they should bring in a real veteran player, not someone who's a 7. Like, someone who you go, oh yeah, he's a 5 or he's a 6. Right?
What about like a guy like Stetcher? Bring him back, or Kulak.
The problem with Troy Stetcher is I've got all kinds of time and respect for Troy Stetcher, but I think he's a 6-7. I think Brett.
You don't want to see you might take a 6, but not a 6-7, like a 5-6 like Kulak, but not a
I think
6-7 like Stetcher.
Yeah, I think if Brett Kulak was still here, and look, we all know why Brett Kulak was traded. There was a reason why he went. I'm not bitching and complaining about that.
Yeah.
But if you told me tomorrow that we could have Brett Kulak back, I'd go great. Like great.
That would be great.
That
would be great.
Yeah.
You never know. Never say never. It's a who knows. So anything else on the Oilers, Kurt? We're kind of...
Yeah, we talked about the Draisaitl thing. I noted today Leon Draisaitl was named the captain of Team Germany. Good for him. And of course, Connor McDavid, an alternate captain for Team Canada. So just a few little kind of odds and ends from the Oilers. So I think that's mostly it. Yeah.
It's cool Szymanski's playing there. Like I think that's a big moment for him. And it's good for the Oilers to have him competing.
Yes. Great development,
Um,
right?
yeah, like a real interesting experience, growing experience for him, and he looked good. He looked
Yeah.
like he could be on the Stanley Cup playoff team on day one for
It
the
is
Oilers. So,
it is always good to play with players better than you, just like it's always good to be in a room with people that are smarter than you.
all right, Kurt, the Olympics are on. We're moving in that direction. The women's team, I have watched them closely for the two games. I've done grade A shots. Breakdowns for both games. Like the first game was like the grade A shots were like 33-4 for Team Canada.
Yeah.
This game was a lot closer, 14-9. Canada's 5-1 victory over Czechia, and but it was brutal. Early in the game, their top, their talisman player, Maria Philippe
Philippe
Poulin,
McDavid. Yep.
gets kind of just a really nasty check, honestly, for women's hockey, at least, into the boards by the top Czech player. Uh, what's her name? Anyway, it was a dirty play. I thought I was hoping they would get revenge on her, but they didn't too much. Kaltunkova, a hell of a player, but
And
she
had
threw a
delivered
couple
a hard
hard
hit
dirty.
against Team Canada the last time they faced one another, I understand. So
Yeah, she hit also Fillier, who's been Canada's best player, I think, so far. Her and Fast. So listen, I'm not like I don't have deep knowledge in terms of like the background history of this team and how they've played in the past, but I have looked very closely at the two games, and I'm just here to say I'm not thrilled with this team. I think that the top, let's say the top seven, eight forwards on this team are really good, and the top three or four defensemen are really good, and I'm guessing their goalie's really good. There's a major drop off though in this team after that, and I don't know why that is. Um, I, One thing that caught my eye, Kurt, I was looking at the Professional Women's Hockey League stats, and there's a 29-year-old player called Rebecca Leslie,
yep.
who's tied with Marie-Philip Poulin in scoring, who's the second leading Canadian scorer in that league, and she wasn't picked for the team. And people can say, well, it's you're just looking at points. That's one small part of the game, David. But I've seen this team. They don't have depth of scoring on it. They don't have enough scorers on this team, and I'd like to hear their explanation for leaving off this particular player, like who is so high up there. She's up there with Brianne Jenner, who's been great, like this big power forward. She's been great. Fillier's been great. There's a young forward called Daryl Watts, who's just fantastic. Sarah Nurse has been great. Marie-Philip Poulin has been great on the power play. In the first game, she had nothing going on at even strength, though, her line. She was with a couple of players who just got almost nothing done beside her. So she was deadly on the power play. But I'm a little worried. Bryce Turnbull, or Blair Turnbull is her name. She's really good. Julia Gosling, a big forward, man, she can shoot the puck. She's a great power play player. But other than that, like this team is going to struggle against the USA, I think, to create offense, especially at even strength. On their power play, they're really good. They've got all these great players, attacking players. They can put them out there. But at even strength, they got 7 grade A shots against Czechia, and Czechia is not the United States of America. So we'll see what happens. Not optimistic.
Well, I think this team is lots good enough to get to the final if they play to their potential. Your point about are they better than the United States? Well, that's the question every big tournament, right? So
Yeah.
I buy that. I watched the Swiss game. I got to say, I thought the only reason that game was remotely close was the Swiss goaltender.
Oh, yeah.
I thought Canada it could have been like 10 or 11-1 or
Yeah.
10-11 nothing. But that young Swiss goalie was just terrific. So I have a bit of a hard time critiquing Canada too much in that game. I didn't watch the whole game today, so you'll have a better feel of it for me. As you know, Team Canada has a history of leaving good players behind. This wouldn't be the first time. It happens at the World Juniors. It did this year. It happened at the Four Nations Cup. It has happened on the Olympic roster. I think the only real way to adjudicate it is when you get to the end and you see what color of medal they're wearing, if any, right?
They are, which is fair enough. They are, the good news is, like, with the Professional Women's Hockey League, like, that is a good way to judge the players, right? Like,
It
they
is.
have a top-notch league now.
Yeah.
All the really good players, almost all of them are there. So, they can really tell now in direct competition between each other who's doing what. I'm just surprised at how many players who had like 3, 4, and 5 points, as opposed to, I think it's 15 points that a point a game essentially this other player has almost, got on the team as forwards. So anyway, maybe they know something I don't know. I will. That's a definite possibility. I could be completely wrong, and those role players are going to check the United States into oblivion, but they're not going to outscore them into oblivion. I can assure you of that at this point.
Maybe
Sure.
they decided they couldn't, and this is intentional, right? But I'm with you. It's the whole, why is Evan Bouchard not on Team Canada again? Like, I'm sorry, he's the leading defensive scorer in the National Hockey League. How is he not at least your 7? I don't mean to relitigate that, but there's a comparison there, right?
There is indeed. Maybe this is a bit of a sore spot for us in Edmonton right now, possibly.
Just maybe.
Okay, Team Canada has their lines, Kurt, and I mean, I would have loved to obviously seen Zach Hyman on the top line with McDavid and Evan Bouchard in a top pairing. I think Team Canada is just stacked at forward. They've got
Agreed.
great forwards on this team,
Yep.
and I really liked the fact that they put McDavid with Macklin Celebrini.
Me too.
I think that we've talked about this so much, how hard it is to play with McDavid, and part of it is McDavid has to respect you to give you the puck. If you're going to trade pucks with Connor McDavid, he's got to think you're going to make a play with that puck, and if he doesn't think that, you're not going to get the puck, and then the whole thing's not going to work because he's going to overhand. Like, it just doesn't work. And we've seen this again and again and again. And I think McDavid's right. Like, you're not saying he's wrong. He needs players who can trade pucks with him at a high level, and Hyman and Nugent Hopkins can do that. And so Leon Draisaitl can do it. And I think Celebrini approaches Draisaitl's level of talent and will be able to play with Connor McDavid, and Connor McDavid will be happy to play with him, and they will make some great plays together. I think my prediction is they will have good chemistry right from the start, and they will play well together. Tom Wilson, I have no idea. Now, maybe with those two guys, you don't need a lot from Tom Wilson other than to win pucks in the corner, go to the net, and be highly aware that if Celebrini and McDavid are down low, you better get out high to cover the odd man rush, and that'll be his job. So we'll see if that works. I don't know about that. Kurt, before we move on to the defense, what did you think of the forward lines?
More or less, I agree with the forward lines, and as I've written, Canada's problem is not at forward. They've got the best forward group in the tournament, even having left really good players behind. You could argue they could ice 2 teams and both of them would be in medal contention. I think that's true, certainly from a forward standpoint. I don't mind the idea of giving Tom Wilson a look up there. Is he the Cadillac version of Pat Maroon? Maybe. If I was choosing, I'd put Mitch Marner there. Because I think Mitch Marner can think at McDavid's level. And I think there'd be something there. But I'm not against Wilson. There's this great fallacy. Oh, a fire hydrant could play with McDavid and score 20 goals. Wrong. As you say, we've seen that attempt time and time again and fail. I like the Celebrini idea. It may not last. We should be prepared for that. Like, it's a good idea, and it might not work. But I'm all for trying it. The Wilson thing, I think I would have gone with Marner first. We'll see.
Well, Marner did, to his credit, set up McDavid for the winning goal. But before then, they weren't playing them together very much because it hadn't worked out very well. And the reason I think that is because Marner really loves having the puck on his stick, which is fine. He should be on a line where that's needed of him and welcome, but it's not with McDavid. McDavid has to be the primary puck carrier on his line, and the other players feed into that. Marner didn't do that very well. Now, he could do that well, but he'd have to make up his mind. Oh, I'm going to transform into Ryan Nugent-Hopkins this week.
But I think he has that hockey IQ. I guess that's what I'm saying.
I think he does, but he didn't demonstrate it. Wasn't willing to do that. I didn't think in the Four Nations, but I'm not saying it couldn't work.
Given another opportunity, don't you think he'd go,
Maybe he's been thinking about it.
Yeah.
It sometimes takes a time. I like him with Crosby and Stone. Mark Stone was great in the Four Nations tournament. He is such a good hockey player. Sidney Crosby was really good in the Four Nations tournament. Marner can carry the mail with those guys, and I think that's a good line. I like Suzuki, McKinnon, and Marchand. Brad Marchand didn't have a great Four Nations tournament, at least initially. Maybe got better in the final game. I think he did, but
he did. Yeah.
We'll see. If he can bring playoff Brad Marchand, but he's kind of banged up, I understand. So we'll see about that. And then the Foegele, Horvat, and Reinhart. I mean, that's a first line on almost every NHL team. So
it is.
They're all first lines. There's no lack of talent. It's all super talented hockey players. Tom Wilson is scoring at a really high clip in strength this year. So I've got I don't know his game well enough. He just obliterates people now and then, but I don't really know his game that well. So I'm curious to see how he can fit in or not. If he doesn't, I will be complaining bitterly about that Zach Hyman thing forever. But Kurt, what really got me was the defense pairings. This is when it's really hitting home. Of course you're going to play Taves and Makar.
Right.
But your second pairing is Josh Morrissey and Colton Parayko. Now, Morrissey was sick in the Four Nations, but he didn't play that well. And Parayko didn't play well at all in the Four Nations. He just leaked grade A shots against. This is your second pairing. Have you looked at the American defense? Have you seen how stacked it is with people who can move the puck and make plays at even strength? And then your third pairing is Drew Doughty, who's just been he seems to be struggling this year. And Thomas Harley, who's a really good player and played well in the Four Nations, but has struggled a bit this year. So if Harley can be as good as he was in the Four Nations, I have no questions about him. Josh Morrissey's a really good player. I think he'll be fine. The top pairing's good. But Parayko and Doughty, why isn't Shea Theodore ahead of... Harley and Doughty are both right shots as well. Why isn't Theodore ahead? I could see Doughty and Morrissey and then Theodore and Harley, but I don't get why they're elevating Parayko and Doughty so early in this series ahead of Shea Theodore, who's a much better puck mover.
Well, there's this thing out there that Team Canada wants its defensemen to defend. And that's really their passive-aggressive way of explaining why Evan Bouchard isn't on this team, right? So if we just listed off that Cadillac edition of Team Canada forwards, well, my question is, don't you want them to get the puck?
Yes.
And I realize that comes off as a bit pissy. Okay, I'm pissy about it. I don't want to call out any of these players. You know how I am about this, David. Anybody who wants to represent their country and pull on Team Canada sweater, I got all the time in the world for you, man. I sincerely do. And I hope they're all great. But I'm concerned that there is not enough puck movers on this back end. And everybody just keeps thinking power play, Cale Makar. Well, what if you only get one power play?
I'm just trying to think. Show me a Canadian defenseman who's primarily a defensive defenseman who's done well in international play.
Yeah.
Maybe Adam Foote, but I wouldn't even I'd have to go back and watch those games to be certain of that. I can't even say for sure. But all I know is it's the puck movers who tend to rise up every best on best tournament.
Yes.
It's the puck moving Canadian defensemen who make a huge difference for the team. And we haven't gone in that direction. And, Cooper is a super smart coach. He is brilliant. And Armstrong built his Stanley Cup winner in St. Louis. But fingers crossed. I just hope it works out. It's funny, they closed practice today. Maybe they read all the bitter criticism of the lines and the defense pairings the first day and thought, Maybe they, I don't think they changed it up. I doubt that, but it was interesting. Maybe they don't want that kind of criticism.
Here's one thing that I'll add, and I'm sure not everybody will agree with me on that, but I won't be the first guy to dismiss Drew Doughty. I I think when the chips are down, he'll bring it. He's a champion and a winner, and no, he has not been good the last 60 days. But I'll believe Drew Doughty's done when I see it.
And I'm not against you on that. I would play Doughty in the top six, Kurt. And I'm not even negative about him being on the team. Like he played well in the Four Nations tournament
He
a
did.
year ago.
Yep.
He was good, and he got better as it went along. He was coming back from injury. He was good. So I'm with you. Like I would like Doughty, a partnership of Doughty and Morrissey works for me. And
Me
then you
too.
have Harley and Theodore, like two young defensemen in their prime. Like that's what I want to see. I'm just a little bit leery of how it's shaken out right now. We'll see.
Yeah.
Hopefully,
I
Cole
can't
Grego
imagine
will
how.
shut me up and play
Yeah.
lights out.
I can't
I hope he
imagine
does.
how Shea Theodore isn't in your top six. That doesn't compute with me.
It does not compute. I agree, but just wait till we see who the starting goalie is.
Well, honestly, David, I'd bet you a cup of coffee, which has become our tradition here at the Cult of Hockey. I'll bet
All
you a
right.
cup of coffee it's Jordan Binnington.
Oh God, how could they go with? He's just been terrible. He's been a sieve.
Yeah, but look how they've built this team. It worked for us last time. It worked for us last time.
It
That's their
barely
mantra.
worked.
There,
It barely worked.
I know they won in overtime. That's what I'm trying to say. I think they've leaned way too heavily on this. I mean, do you really think you're building chemistry over a full calendar year? Maybe they know something I don't. Hey, they're NHL coaches. I sure the hell am not. But boy, so anyway, because they've built the roster the way they've built it, and let's be honest, if you can't win a prelim game with Binnington and net, you're probably not good enough to win the tournament anyway. And then you'll know whether he's on or not. Right? I'll bet you anything. Look, David, I'm not saying this is what I do.
Oh, I know, Kurt.
I'm trying to read the minds of the Team Canada coaching staff, which is a bit of an uncomfortable place for me to be.
I like your faces there, Kurt. Your micro expressions. Like there was a series of them that were a mixture of, I don't know exactly, but disgust might have
Well,
been one of them.
I have a lot of strong feelings about Team Canada, but they're all wrapped up in the Kurt is a proud Canadian, and I'll cheer for anybody who'll pull on that jersey. So if you think I look conflicted, I am.
I want Canada to win so bad. I just say what I think about it. Like I just say, like, here's how I think you can win. And
Yep.
I think you can win by starting Logan freaking Thompson in net, who's been one of the best goalies in the NHL all year. And go with him until he proves he's not the goalie. Put your faith in your best goalie, your best Canadian goalie, who's as good right now as any goalie in the NHL. Play him. That's what I would do.
So I agree
nothing
with you,
against Jordan
David.
Binnington, who was great,
But when building the roster, recency bias played no part in building this roster,
evidently,
practically at all, right? So
Yes.
why would it have any impact when it comes to the goaltending rotation?
Yeah, we'll see what they do. We'll see what John Cooper does. I mean, ultimately, yeah, he's got a lot of pull. So, like, they're not going to fire the coach halfway through the tournament.
No.
So he will decide in the end who plays.
I
and who
have
doesn't
more
play.
time for John Cooper than I do the general managers of this team.
So do I. I think John Cooper is an excellent coach.
Yeah.
So maybe he can do it. I don't, but whereas I thought Team Canada was the favorite heading into the Four Nations, I think Team USA is the favorite. And I know there's a lot of unhappiness about who they left off the team, but
Yes.
man, they got Tage Thompson as their third line center. They've got a really strong team. And their defense, Kurt, man, their defense can move the puck and play.
Yeah, I don't think the
So-
Americans can touch the Canadian forwards. If
No, they can't.
the Americans beat the Canadians, it's because they'll defend better.
Yeah, and get better goaltending.
Yep.
But that's a big wild card for both these teams. How are their goalies playing?
Yes.
We'll see. Because last time Binnington was the best goalie in the final game, and he made some miraculous saves.
Yep. He showed up when it really counted. I'll give him credit for that. But
and as a afterthought on this team, like a Hail Mary player on this team, like if the other goalie didn't work out or the other goalies don't work out, if you thought, let's put Binnington in and save the day, that's how I would use him in this tournament. And I would be
especially
okay
because he's a veteran who's been in big games, right? He could handle that. In you go, man. Like that would be a really good goal for him. A really good role. It's kind of like that veteran relief pitcher. You bring him in the tightest situations because that's what he does, right? But he only pitches an inning for you, and he doesn't start the game.
All right, Kurt. Well, I think we've covered the territory. Now,
solved the problems of Team Canada, men and women's.
They'd have to bring in some new players to help the women's team, I'm sorry to say. That's really harsh. Hopefully they can get it done. All right, Kurt. We'll talk again probably after Team Canada's first game, unless there's a big change in the Oilers. This in the next little while, we'll see what happens. So thanks for talking today.
Hi, Paul. Go Canada.
And thank you to all the listeners of the Cult of Hockey, the wisest, sanest, smartest fans in the world, the faithful. And in the meantime, and in between times, this has been another edition of the Cult of Hockey podcast.